So global governance in relation to the intervention of COVID-19 has involved various efforts by international organizations, governments, and institutions to coordinate responses to the pandemic. Some case aspect include the collaboration. So countries and international organizations have worked together to share information, research, and resources related to COVID-19. Initiatives like COVAX aim to ensure equitable access to vaccines worldwide. And the next one is policy coordination. So global governance has involved discussions and agreements on the policies such as travel restrictions, quarantine restrictions, vaccine and distribution to mitigate the spread of the virus. So the next one is information sharing. The World Health Organization or the WHO played a central role in providing the guidance and information to countries, helping them make informed decisions in their response to the pandemic. Next one is economic support. So international financial institutions provided financial assistance to countries facing economics due to the pandemic and promoting the global economic stability. And next, research and development collaboration in scientific research accelerated the development of vaccines and treatments with many countries' organization. So the pandemic also sparked discussions on performing global governance and in strengthening international institutions to better respond to global health crisis in the future. So overall, the intervention of the COVID-19 highlighted the importance of global governance mechanisms in addressing the transnational challenges and the need for improved coordination and preparedness in the face of future pandemics. So that's all. Thank you.
Explain the effect of globalization in the government. So, this chapter investigates the long-run effect of globalization on public finance using data of developing countries from 2005 to 2017. The present research makes us contribution to the literature from various aspects. Firstly, integration and co-integration properties of the variables are considered. Then the co-integrating relationship between globalization and public finance indicators and public finance estimated by employing the fully modified ordinary least squares or FMOS and dynamic ordinary least squares DOLS estimators. The empirical results are mixed. Globalization influenced both government expenditure and public debt positively and significantly in the long run, while it influences tax revenue negatively. Moreover, the effect of the globalization on the increased share of indirect taxes in the long run is more than the effect on the increased share of direct taxes. So, that's all. Thank you.
So as of the identifications of the institutions that governs international relations, the first one is the United Nations or the UN. The United Nations is a global organization that aims to maintain international peace and security, promote human rights, and foster social and economic development, and it coordinates international cooperations. It provides a forum for member states to discuss and address global issues such as climate change, poverty, and armed conflicts. The second one is the World Trade Organization. The World Trade Organization is an international organization that deals with the global rules of trade between nations. It provides a framework for negotiating and implementing trade agreements, resolving trade disputes, and promoting liberalization for international rule or trade. The World Trade Organization plays a crucial role in facilitating the global of trade and ensuring the fair unpredictable trade relations. Third one is the International Monetary Fund. It is an international financial institution that aims to foster global monetary cooperation, secure financial stability, facilitate international trade, and promote high employment and sustain economic growth. And it also reduces poverty around the world. And it provides also financial assistance, policy advice, and technical expertise to member countries and helps in managing global economic challenges. The fourth is the World Bank Group. It is a collection of 5 institutions that provides financial and technical assistance to developing countries for development projects. It focuses on reducing poverty, promoting sustainable economic growth, and building infrastructure. The World Bank plays a crucial role in supporting globalization by financing projects that enhance connectivity, trade, and economic integration among nations. Next is the International Criminal Court, or the ICC. It is an intergovernmental organization that investigates and prosecutes individuals accused of genocide, crimes against humanity, war crimes, and the crime of aggression. It aims to hold individuals accountable for serious international crimes and contributes the establishment of a rule-based global order. These institutions, along with many others, provide a framework for cooperation, negotiation, and coordination among nations. They contribute to develop of international norms, standards, and agreements that shape the process of globalization and help manage the challenges and opportunities in present.
I'm here in front of you to discuss the difference between internationalism and globalism. Internationalism is a movement which advocates a greater economic and political cooperation among nations for the theoretical benefit of all. So, it teaches that the people of all nations have more in common than they do differences, and thus that nations should treat each other as equals. Supporters of internationalism are known as internationalists and generally believe that humans should unite across national, political, cultural, racial, or class boundaries to advance their economic interests, or that governments should cooperate because their mutual long-term interests are greater importance than their short-term disputes. So the goal of internationalism is to unite all countries and actively oppose nationalism and war. So example is United Nations. While globalism is an ideology based on the belief that people, goods, and information ought to be able to cross national borders unfettered. So it seeks to describe and explain nothing more than a world which is characterized by networks of connections that span multi-continental distances. So it attempts to understand and all the interconnections of the modern world and to highlight patterns that underline them. So example is economic globalism. It involves long-distance flows of goods, services, and capital, and information and perceptions that accompany market exchange.
Roles and functions of the UN, or United Nations. The main role of the United Nations is to maintain international peace and security. It is the responsibility of the United Nations to maintain international peace and security for that the people will live in peaceful life. To develop friendly relations among nations, it is to become one, or we are all united to all nations around the world, to promote respect for human rights and to coordinate in disaster and situations, and to provide help on global issues such as drug trafficking and environment. The role of the United Nations also tackles about the human rights which will be respected to us everyone, and to coordinate aid in disaster situations such as when we Filipinos hit by a typhoon. Some nations will help us give relief goods and other aids that they will they will give to us. The UN's main mandate is to preserve global security, which it does particularly through the Security Council. In addition, the UN can settle international legal issues through the International Court of Justice and implements its key decisions through the Secretariat led by Secretary General.
In the 21st century, several challenges in global governance have emerged. First is the complexity of issues. Global challenges such as climate change, cybersecurity, pandemic are complex and they are also interconnected. It requires coordinated efforts across nations. Next is power shifts. Emerging economies and non-state actors have gained influence, altering the traditional power dynamics and making it harder to reach consensus. Next challenge is technological advancements. Rapid technological changes present new challenges in areas like cybersecurity, data privacy, and regulation of emerging technologies. Next is inequality. Economic, social, and health inequalities, both within and between countries, can affect cooperation and lead to differing priorities.
Climate change and environmental degradation. These challenges require coordinated international effort to climate their effect of promote sustainable practice. Human rights strengthening a balance between respecting sovereignty and protecting human rights can be complex, essentially with addressing violation within a country. Public opinions and political will. Public sentiment and political will can vary widely, making a challenging to maintain consistent global response to issues. So, disinformation and miscommunications repeat the dissemination of false information can undermine the trust and hidden effective global cooperation. Addressing these challenges requires innovative approaches, diplomatic effort, enhance international cooperation, and a willingness to adapt to the challenging dynamics of global governance.
Nation state in a global world is largely a regulatory one as the chief factor in global interdependence. It creates a sense of interdependence among nations, which could create an imbalance of power among nations of different economic strengths. The role of the nation state in globalization is a complex one, in part due to the varying definitions and shifting concepts of globalization. While it has been defined in many ways, globalization is generally recognized as the fading or complete disappearance of economic, social, and cultural borders between nation states. Some scholars have theorized that nation-states, which are inherently divided by physical and economic boundaries, will be less relevant in a globalized world, while increasingly reduced barriers regarding international commerce and communications are sometimes seen as a potential threat to nation-states. These threats have existed throughout history. Air and sea transportation that made same-day travel to other continents possible and greatly expanded trade among countries did not abolish the sovereignty of individual nations. Instead, globalization is a force that changed the way nation-states deal with one another, particularly in the area of international commerce. The role of the nation-state in the global world is largely a regulatory one and the chief factor in global interdependence. While the domestic role of nation-state remains largely unchanged, states that were previously isolated are now forced to engage with one another to set international commerce policies. Through various economic imbalances, this interaction may lead to diminished roles for some states and exalted roles for others. Globalization often brings with it increased access to markets, improved standards of living, lower cost for products, and widespread innovation. Historically, members of a nation share a cultural identity which can include its history, heritage, holidays, and heroes. But as globalization ushers its new ideas and open borders, create new or bargaining minorities within a state, the homogeneous culture of a nation may have difficulty assimilating these changes. This difficulty may be weakened or be seen to weaken the power of the nation state and create new challenges alongside political and economic ones.
Largely, a regulatory one as the chief factor in global interdependence, the spread of products, technology, information, and jobs across nations. While the domestic role of the nation state remains largely unchanged, states that were previously isolated are now forced to engage with one another to set international commerce policies. Corporations in developed nations can gain a competitive edge through globalization. Developing countries also benefit through globalization as they tend to be more cost effective and therefore attract jobs. The way that countries and people have become more connected politically, economically, and socially. The Internet has played an important role in giving people all over the world voice. That means that local governments are impacted by globalization from the top and from the bottom.